Hi everyone, this is Anne McElhenney.
And Phelim McElhenney here for the Anne and Phelim Scoop podcast, YouTube video.
And all of those, and everywhere where you get good podcasts.
Yes. Who invented that phrase?
Everywhere where you get good podcasts?
Yes,
no,
like
they use it for everything. No, it's everywhere where you get good books.
I know, but you often see at the end of advertising things, wherever good books are sold or wherever. It's like,
it's a line.
It's a line, but who came up with wherever you get your podcast?
Probably.
By the way, can we just say something? Where
Maybe.
we used to live, over in Marina del Rey.
Marina del Rey.
The person below us to the left.
Correct.
I could look out on his balcony. Is the person who invented the word podcast.
So there you go. So it was always meant to be that we would have a podcast. I think that's almost like a hand. That's like a sign from God,
We've
right?
met the person. I've shook the hand. I haven't shook the hand. We've met the guy. I think we even had. Do we have Thanksgiving dinner with the person who invented the word podcast?
We might have had Thanksgiving dinner with the person who invented the word podcast.
English guy.
So today we have a lot to get through today. So I want us to move on swiftly, Phelim.
I want to talk more about trivial.
So the first thing we want to talk about. It's been a really great week. We've had an enormous amount of news. We have a lot of news because an awful lot happened. So the first thing that happened was the FBI Lovebirds. And the trailer
was released, yes.
The trailer was retweeted, by the way.
Speak into the microphone there.
Oh, sorry, the producer isn't saying that I need to speak into the microphone. Am I doing all right there, Magda?
Yes.
So the FBI Lovebirds came out a week ago, and it's done really, really well.
I have heard that you are regarded as the #1 counterintelligence agent in the world. Comment on that?
And the trailer has been watched by, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people now.
500,000 people now?
I think, was it 500,000 people? So it's huge. And obviously, if you haven't seen it yet, the FBILovebirds.com will bring you directly to
Let's just remind people of what FBI Lovebirds is.
Do.
FBI Lovebirds is a play consisting entirely of tweets between FBI Lovebirds Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and their congressional testimony. So it's a tragic love story amidst the deep state conspiracy. So they act like teenage rebel wannabes, and it's part excruciating, part hilarious, and part deeply disturbing.
And for
Dean Cain plays Peter Strzok. Christy Swanson, the wonderful Christy Swanson, plays Lisa Page. It's very, very funny. So we had a one night only in DC after the venue was cancelled at the last minute because theatre people are all cowards. They think they're brave, but they're all cowards. We'll talk about that another day. So we had one night only. We filmed it. We released the film version this week. Put out a trailer. The trailer's been viewed 500,000 times. And why has the trailer been viewed 500,000 times? Anne?
It might have something to do with the fact that the President of the United States
What's his name again?
Donald Trump.
I want Siri in here, or what do you call Alexa, and I want to go, Alexa, who is the President of the United States?
Yes, it's quite sad. So Phelim keeps asking Alexa who's the President of the United States because I think he's expecting her to get really upset. And someone's listening. Somebody,
I was there doing it the other day, and I said it. Actually, I think it was Paul. And I said, Alexa, who's the President of the United States? And Alexa went, Donald Trump is the President of the United States. And then I says, Alexa, who was the President of the United States before Donald Trump? Barack Obama was the President of the United States before. And it's like, we could definitely hear a difference in tone in Alexa.
So the President tweeted out the trailer, and obviously we got a lot of attention, and that's why I think it's about 500,000 people have seen the trailer so far. So if you want to go and see the whole play, by the way, it's on YouTube, and all you need to do is put in FBILovebirds.com
or FBILovebirdsmovie.com,
and it'll bring you there. But we had, and not alone did the President tweet it out, but we also had this extraordinary thing that happened at one of his rallies, and we're going to play that piece of film now.
Well, if you look at the trailer, the trailer is all about Hillary must win 100 million to 1, and I love you this and I love you that. And then the President, after tweeting out the trailer with all that in it, went to the rally in Minneapolis and
here's what happened.
She's going to win 10 million to 1. She's going to win. I'm telling you, Peter. She's going to win. Peter, oh, I love you so much.
And the other thing that happened to us, which was fantastic, was that we were featured on the Rush Limbaugh show. Mark Stein was sitting in for Rush Limbaugh this week, and he spoke about the FBI Lovebirds.
I mean, yeah, it's been amazing. I think people should tweet to the president. We should have FBI Lovebirds in the White House.
They've never had a play in the White
They've never
House.
had they have had lots of movies, but they've never
had music
had a
in the White
play.
House. They've had bands in the White House. They have singers there. They've never had a play. So that could be a first.
That could be a first. So please tweet to the president. Put FBI Lovebirds on the White House.
This,
and it's not like it's political because we added drama. It's 100% verbatim. It's only their text messages. Only their text messages. It's only their congressional testimony under oath. There's nothing added. So it can't be accused of, well, I mean, you're allowed to put on political stuff in the White House. Obama had political movies all the time. So let's get it on there. We did nothing added, nothing dramatized.
And not to boast or anything, Phelim, but did President Trump, have a movie in the White House? The only political movie that
What
he
was
had
that
in the
movie
White House.
again?
What was that movie called? Let me see. What was the one movie that President Trump has had in the White House? Oh yeah, that's right. It's our movie.
Yes.
It's the Gosnell movie, which by the way came out this time last year. But we're going to talk about that next week because we've got too much going on this week. But also the FBI Lovebirds were featured on Fox News twice this week with the Laura Ingraham show. We might show a little bit of that as well. And one thing we're kind of teasing the idea about, and maybe you guys would write and let us know what you think. But we'd quite like to take the FBI Lovebirds on the road, and maybe we should do that in January. Maybe we should come to your town and show the FBI Lovebirds, or maybe we should go to DC for a week, or maybe we should go to New York for a week. But you decide and let us know what you think we should do.
On that topic, quick book review. It's called Deep State: Trump, the FBI, and the Rule of Law. James B. Stewart. Quick book review. Don't buy it. Even though it's called Deep State, what can I say about it?
Well, you bought it to read it so that no other people wouldn't have to.
Yes, I mean every time the Democrats, Obama basically said, "Oh, Hillary Clinton is completely innocent." Whilst she's been investigated by, she's completely innocent. She didn't break any crimes. That was a mistake. According to this guy, that was a mistake, right? But when Trump did the similar thing, it's obviously obstruction of justice. So everything the Democrats do is a mistake. Everything Trump does is the worst thing in the world. Comey, I've written here, Comey Dick, right?
Comey Dick?
Yes.
Interesting. Right, I think we need an explanation on that, potentially.
I mean, he's an odious human being, really.
As in dickhead, is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough. Just to be clear there. Right.
Yes. I mean, so, how is he going to shake up the FBI?
I have no plans.
So the problem with Mueller, Mueller wore white shirts and a jacket.
Go on.
At every event and every time he appeared out.
Oh, so he decided he'd wear colourful shirts.
He wore a blue shirt.
Oh my God, what a rebel!
And often was
crazy guy.
And often was without a jacket.
Crazy guy.
That was the biggest problem in the FBI. Is that Scaredy Cat?
That's Scaredy Cat. Hello, sweetheart.
This is unbelievable.
All right, Phelim, continue on about the dickhead that you're talking about there.
So, I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, yes, like I wrote the word dick there. So, and he's a liar too, In his confirmation hearing, I don't care about politics. I don't care about expediency. He's now, there was an interview with him in the New York Times the weekend. He's now dedicating himself to overthrowing the Trump presidency.
Oh yeah, so which one's true? Either he's not interested in politics, or now he suddenly is interested.
He said
in politics.
that at his confirmation hearing, and his wife was so impressed by it, and he was so impressed by it, they printed it out.
Go on.
Laminated it.
No.
And it's on their fridge.
No.
Or as you call it, refrigerators.
Oh my God, that's fabulous.
Yeah. So I mean, these people that have an ego the size of
whatever.
Texas,
large,
whatever.
Large ego.
Yeah. So anyway, don't buy Deep State. I mean, it's quite funny. I'm reading it for the background on the Struck page texts. And actually, it's given me a new insight to some of the texts that I couldn't really work out. I just thought were funny anyway. I now know the context of them. It's given me some of that background. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't make them look any... I mean, if you saw anything with the FBI Lovebirds, he's alleging, they weren't that political, Really, they weren't that political. There was tens of thousands of emails and text messages. There's just a few political ones. They were political to their bone. They bled politics. Anyway, don't buy the Deep State, Trump, the FBI, and the Rule of Law.
Excellent. Okay. In other news, because as I said, it's been a very busy week. So the other news is that Phelim has been in San Francisco this past week covering the David Daleiden versus Planned Parenthood civil case. And over to you, Phelim. Tell us what happened last week, and I think we're going to have some tape to show as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing what's really worrying about this trial is what isn't happening. because the judge is not allowing it to happen. But, you know, so the judge, so David Daleiden's defense, he's not been sued for defamation. He's not been sued for slander. He's accused Planned Parenthood of profiting, of selling babies' arms, legs, skins, livers, thymuses, brains. There's invoices where you can buy the skin of a Down syndrome child for $320 plus package and postage. And if you don't pay within 30 days, then it's charged at 1% interest ongoing. You know, the usual standard terms for commerce. And Scaredy Cat is now up.
Attacking Magda, basically.
Attacking Magda. Well, actually, even worse, attacking Magda's soundboard. So,
go ahead.
To move on. Poor Scaredy Cat.
Scaredy Cat.
To move on. So the judge, David's defense of this is that you're allowed, he's been sued for breach of privacy, filming people without their permission. You're allowed to film people without their permission if it's to stop a commission of a violent felony.
Correct.
And on the tip, they admit violent felonies.
Yes.
But the judge won't allow them
to play the tape that would prove that.
Yeah, so, but it keeps coming out, and then the judge just shuts them down. You were there for that. Shut them down immediately. Yeah. So,
and it's kind of amazing. It's almost like an electric shock. It's like, you know, the minute they start to get into the substantive issue of what was actually said during these taped interviews that will actually exonerate David, because they'll prove the fact that he discovered violent felonies. The moment they do that, stop the tape.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So one of their Planned Parenthood claims is, you know, because of the lies in the videos, we had to hire extra security, and that's a damage, and they're suing David for damage. But they won't say what the lie is, because the minute they started getting questioned, what's the lie in the video, the judge goes, we're not going into the videos. Yeah. So some things have come out, though. For the first, there was the first ones, Dr. Leslie Drummond-Hay. The thing I loved with Dr. Leslie Drummond-Hay was, so David's been sued for fraud as well, because he used a false name and a false company. Actually, it was a real company, but he set it up just to infiltrate the Planned Parenthood conferences. And Dr. Leslie Drummond-Hay was very upset that he created this false identity. And then she said, you know, casually, to explain just how dangerous this was, she says, well, I myself have two identities.
Oh, yeah.
It's going, yeah. All right, so it's not okay for David to have two identities, but it's okay for you to have two identities. So she's Dr. Leslie Drummond-Hay at work, and she's Dr. Leslie Sharp in her real life. So she goes to the PTA meetings as Dr. Leslie Sharp and you know, collects money for the homeless or whatever people do to absolve themselves or whatever else they do. And so she has two identities. Anyway, she was taped, and it, again, the judge shut this down very quickly, but it came out. She was taped saying she was so good at her job that STEM Express, which buy the organs and the baby's limbs and all that, gave her oohs and ahs for her skill in fishing out the organs. You know, so, and I went afterwards and asked her about these oohs.
About the oohs and ahs. And we're going to watch that piece of tape right now.
Let's watch a little bit of the tape.
You know what? I think she didn't really like being asked those hard questions. So here's that tape.
Yes.
How did you feel when STEM Express gave you oohs and ahs for getting 4 intact limbs from
I don't know who you are.
I'm a journalist. I'm covering the case. Phelim McAleer's name.
Oh, I think you have to talk to them about it. It's not.
No, I'm asking you about your evidence. You said you got oohs and ahs.
I don't have any comment.
Did you get oohs and ahs? You did, yes.
I don't have any comment. I don't want to.
You said you got 4.
Do you want me to get security? Can I get security?
You said you got 4 intact limbs.
Can I get security? He's harassing me.
She seems to think that she's entitled to protection from hard questions. I mean, one thing I didn't see in the tape was you get $500 million. It's a lot of money from taxpayers.
Yeah, so you have to answer questions. Actually,
I have every right to ask you about what you do with that money, how you use that money. Then the other interview I did was with Sherry Bonner. She's the CEO of Planned Parenthood Pasadena. Oh, by the way, you can see all these in length, and you can read the full articles on thedailywire.com. I'm acting as a correspondent for thedailywire.com for this. So you can read the full articles. You can also see the full videos there. Sherry Bonner, who's the CEO of Planned Parenthood Pasadena, she openly boasted on the tape that she had directed So her employee, Dr. Gatter, who's given evidence this week, openly boasted on tape that she had instructed another surgeon to employ a less crunchy technique.
Less crunchy.
Is it legal to change an abortion technique to get a better organ to sell?
Excuse me.
Dr.
She's
Garrett,
getting into the car,
why
please.
didn't
Step
you
away, sir.
Why didn't you reprimand
Step
Dr.
away,
Meet you at the store,
Why
meet you
didn't
at
you
the
reprimand?
restaurant.
Is it okay then to change
Yeah.
an abortion
Okay.
technique? Keep your hands off me. Keep your hands off me. Don't touch me.
Back
okay?
off.
Don't touch me.
So, however, the judge shut that down pretty quick, but it did come out. Dr. Gatter was haggling over the price. Well, what do you think? It was, I swear to God, it was classic. She'd obviously read Trump's Art of the Deal, because David said to her on the undercover video, how much would you want for these body parts? And she goes, you tell me a price. And that's the classic way, is you don't say, you ask the person to
make them name the price. That actually puts them in a weaker position.
Yes.
Actually, yeah.
And hopefully they'll ask for more than you were thinking of, and you go,
or less than you were thinking of.
So she I then asked her, about this when she left the court, and very non-responsive actually.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it as, and her security guard, which she has, seemed to think
in her very impressive car as well.
Yeah, seemed to think it was part of his job to stop journalists asking questions. They asked her in court, did you employed Dr. Gatter, who's giving, by the way, Dr. Gatter is giving evidence later on this week. You employed Dr. Gatter. When she talked about a less crunchy technique, when she started haggling over the price, and that was on the video, did you reprimand her? Because it's actually illegal to profit from the sale of any human body part in the United States. And she says, no, I didn't reprimand her because, and here's the quote, well, because I looked very carefully at the video. I had conversations with her attorney. I saw nothing in that video that would indicate there was any reason to reprimand. It was a business conversation that was happening between two parties. Well, you can say that again. It certainly was a business conversation happening between two parties. So
it's a business. Selling baby parts is business, and she's actually saying that and admitting it in that quote.
So we're going to be.
I'm going back to San Francisco again this week.
Yeah.
We're going to hear from Dr. Nucatola this week, who is taking the stand. So this could be very, very interesting. Dr. Nucatola, people will remember, is the woman who famously in David's videos talked about. I believe she talked about the Lamborghini. Is she the one that talked about the Lamborghini?
I think she might be the Lamborghini. There's so many outrageous quotes. I need to go back. There's Lamborghinis.
We're going to hear from Dr. Nucatola this week, and Phelim is going to be up in San Francisco. And I was not in San Francisco last week because I was in Oklahoma at OSU, at the Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I had a fantastic time. I really was very grateful to everyone for inviting me there. Excuse me, that you'll remember that all of the posters that they put up around campus had been defaced with fascist written across it. So one of the things I did when I went there was I spoke 3 times in 2 classes and in a speech in the evening. I explained what the word fascist was, because that seemed to be something that certainly some students in OSU weren't aware of what a real fascist was. The truth is that it went really, really well. We had some students giving some difficulty, but really, honestly, really, really nice. I really enjoyed meeting everyone, and I actually got. There's some of the quotes of what people of what some of the students said when
I shall read some of the quotes. What the students thought about.
I just got this today.
Yes, I found it very interesting. Okay, kid.
Thank you.
Yeah. Come on, kid. You could have got a bit better than that. So, great speaker. Really enjoyed having her speak to us. This woman is my spirit animal. She had a lot of really good points. I appreciated her passion. For fairness in the world, unfairness in the world, and working towards to make the world better with less government control. Very interesting, great experiences, very intense. I love the stories. I thoroughly enjoyed the lecture, especially how she responded to the very angry and rather intense questions. Loved this presentation. Was a great explanation of the capitalist system.
And just, thank you. And I'm being very
No,
nice.
no, let's keep going.
Very nice. No, honestly, people were very nice, and it was kind of
the
amazing.
best speaker we've had on this series.
Thank you. So after the first speech, it was kind of weird because it was like I was in a classroom. There was about 200 students there, and they started all to line up to shake hands with me afterwards, which I thought was really, really sweet. But what I did, I think, that might have been unusual was, and I said to the students, look, I'm not an economist. I'm not a philosopher of economics. But what I do know about capitalism, I learned through actual stories. And one of the stories I told, there's the cat jumping again onto Magda's soundboard.
So if there's a problem with sound levels on this podcast, you can blame both Scaredy Cat and Top Cat.
But one of the stories that I told,
over here.
One of the stories that I told at the class that I thought was really instructive was, was one that was very personal to me about how I discovered how great capitalism was, and it involved my auntie Ursula, who lived in London for many, many years. Went to London in the 40s, and then met her husband there, Tom, and lived there in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s until she died. This century, basically, and when she was originally there, there's a flight. You can fly from London to Dublin. It's a really, really short flight. I mean, it's like an hour. It's an hour. And obviously, over the years, because our nearest partner in Ireland is England, is the UK, that's our trading partner. But also, the UK has always been a rich and powerful country. And people could get jobs there. So there's a massive amount of... So you basically had millions of Irish people going to England, going to London, and living there, like my auntie Ursula. The big challenge was then, of course, that these people loved home. They loved family. They loved their relatives. But getting home was a real challenge. There was one way of going home, which was a boat, but it took forever. But there was this flight. And here's the thing about the flight. Up until 1985, there was a national airline.
No.
Go on, sorry.
No, but sorry. There was actually a national airline up until the 2000s. But up until there was no competition. National airline and no competition.
So there was only a national airline up until 1985. But in 1985, a guy called Tony Ryan founded Ryanair, which now is one of the biggest airlines in the world, and certainly the biggest airline in Europe. But what was interesting was when there was no competition, Aer Lingus, who then had a complete monopoly. The flight in 1985 between London and Dublin cost $250.
Pounds?
$250, 210 pounds.
Okay.
$250, 210 pounds back in 1985. And what I did was, the day that I was speaking at OSU, I decided, I'll look up and just see how much it is today. And I said to the students, how much do you think it costs, whatever it is, 34 years later, how much do you think that same flight costs 35 years later? And I think the context to maybe put this in is that up until 1985, that trip, London to Dublin, was the most, per kilometre, was the most expensive airline trip on the planet Earth. It was actually the most expensive, $250 back in 1985. Today, and the day that I was there, I looked up the price for a Ryanair flight. It was $11. $11 34 years later. And I said, this is what capitalism does. And my auntie Ursula, who loved Ireland, who loved to travel back to Ireland, and who missed out on so many things because she couldn't afford it, because she was just a regular person working an ordinary job and couldn't afford to be going to Ireland as much as she wanted to, was denied that because of the fact that there was a monopoly, there wasn't capitalism, there wasn't an open market, there wasn't free and a fair marketplace. And once there was, and these airline prices immediately plummeted, she was on that flight the whole time. And not only did Ryanair fly to Dublin, they flew everywhere else as well, including the west of Ireland. They flew into Knock, which is a half an hour basically from the family home place. So, it was just one of those examples where I think sometimes children and young people are hearing about capitalism in a very theoretical way. When you explain capitalism through an actual story, through a proper story of something that happened to a real person, it has a bigger impact. So I told that story, and I mean, it's so true and so extraordinary. We'll be on Ryanair ourselves in a couple of weeks when we go to cover the Brexit story.
Yes, we're going to London to cover the Brexit story.
Exactly.
So exactly. We'll be the apparent Brexit story, but who knows?
Well, we're very, very hopeful.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we realised this week is that 3 years ago, Phelim, we have an anniversary here. We have a funny anniversary here, and Magda and Phelim have a little anniversary here now.
Yes.
So 3 years ago, this week, Magda and Phelim went up to North Dakota to cover the North Dakota Access Pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline. Protesters.
Yeah, and it's really funny because if you read about that now, it's like these plucky kids, taking on the man, and just peace-loving kids, and it's this kind of, pivotal moment, and it's very turning point and all this. I mean, it was a bunch of criminals. I mean, we were abducted, we were kidnapped by these people, and we're very, very lucky to get out unharmed. I mean. So we were filming there. We were filmed the first day. We just filmed. We didn't ask many questions.
Maybe can you start? Sorry, actually, Phelim, just by explaining to people what was the issues at hand with the North Dakota Access Pipeline, because the whole pretext for the protest in the first place was based on a lie.
So yes, the Dakota Access Pipeline was not going through any Indigenous land at all.
Right, but that was kind of at the centre of the story, right?
Yes, but a bunch of some Indigenous and a bunch of other people set up this camp on federal ground, on federal government ground. And because Obama was in power then, they wouldn't give the cops. All the cops said was the federal government has to say these people are trespassing, they need to leave. And the cops would have went in and evicted them. But no, the government wouldn't do that. So you had this maybe 10,000 people there. So I mean, there was all sorts of things, really bad criminality going on there, theft, and there was one attempted rape. I remember Rolling Stone wrote about it.
Yep.
An attempted rape, but it was dealt internally by a council, and it's like, so Rolling Stone will make up a rape on campus.
Yes.
But when there's a real rape, they just brush it.
Let it go.
And this 3,000 word article, this attempted rape got one sentence and nothing else. So we went up there, and
Magda went up.
Why weren't you there, Anne? I can't remember.
I know why I wasn't there. Somebody needed to stay at home, just to kind of keep a monitor everything.
Yes.
Something like that. But by the way, as this story unfolded, I will totally admit that I was incredibly glad that I wasn't there. And I think poor Magda had bitten off a bit more than she had realised, because suddenly you ended up in an incredibly hostile situation. Yes. Can you describe what happened? And Magda's here sort of smiling now, but she wasn't smiling then, I can tell you.
So we started asking awkward questions on the second day, because all these people had come in trucks with tents, and they were protesting an oil pipeline, and how did you get here? I flew here. Well, that's oil, right? That's gas. What's your tent made of? Plastic. That's oil. That's gas. What's your truck made of? Stuff that comes from energy. There was probably either coal or oil, one of these terrible things. So we started asking these awkward questions, and it went fine for a while. Then, just like that, it turned really nasty.
I mean, did you come here in a vehicle? Did you guys come here in vehicles?
Yeah, we all came with her. We piled as many people in it as we possibly could, along with probably about 1,000 pounds of food.
Does that not make you a hypocrite coming in an oil-propelled vehicle to protest oil?
No, it does not make me a hypocrite. No.
Can I see your press badge? I don't have it. The press place was closed.
Okay. Can we see your footage then?
No, sorry.
It's open now.
Yeah, we're going to have security. Are you with the
I'm with the press. Hey, let go of that, sir. Let go of that.
I remember we got into this wrestling match, isn't that right, Magda, with this guy, and then
he's trying to get the microphone.
And then they said you have to go up and go to the press tent. I said, we've been to the press tent, and it's closed at the moment. No, you have to go up to the press tent. He says, yeah, let's go to the press tent, Magda. So we go over to the car, and we're not going to the press tent. We're getting out of here. Because we're sort of buried deep in the thing. So we started heading up to the press tent, and next thing, we started heading for the entrance. Next thing, surrounded by a crowd of people.
We're in our car. We've been surrounded by protesters. They're trying to break into the car. We're in real danger. Can you please come? Can you send someone? Yeah, break into our car. They're attacking us for asking questions, and we're really scared. You'll see the crowd of people around us. They've got trucks around us. They're stopping us from leaving. A couple of guys in masks, some with sticks, and they're banging on the car.
With dogs.
And they've now got dogs as well.
You can continue to ignore me.
They've got sticks and dogs, and they're now banging on the car.
Cameraman had the camera down very low, so you can't see the whole crowd. So we couldn't move. What they wanted to do was wipe our tapes or take our equipment, and we knew that. We're locked in this car, and he says, yeah, we'll go to the press tent. And I'm going. Magda was driving, and I says, Magda, we're not going to any press tent. As soon as we get to that entrance, we're
getting out of here.
We're putting the shoe down.
But we're now moving slowly, right? They want us to go somewhere, so we're going with them. But we want to go to the gate and get out. But they've just pulled a truck. They've just pulled a truck across the gate, and they've just blocked the gate. And we're not going.
Sending someone?
Please, you got to send someone.
And I'm sitting there, literally thinking, can we drive up that ridge and smash through the fence? Like, I know it works in the movies, right? But
it's make-believe film. The movies, you see, that's the problem with that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it didn't look, it was a wire fence, but like, who knows what would have happened.
They're now banging the windows. They're now hitting the windows. They're now hitting the windows. They're now hitting the windows.
Magda's very, very smart and very highly skilled. I'm not sure about rough terrain driving, though.
Oh, but wasn't that, what do you think, Magda? Could we got up that ridge?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all a blur to me.
It's all a blur. She wiped this. She wiped this. Her own hard drive has been wiped.
So anyway, at this stage, then I phoned earlier. I'd phoned the cops, but of course we're in the middle. We're in the middle of North Dakota.
Oh, you had no reception.
And the phone kept dropping out, and then if you move slightly to the right, you had reception.
What's the name of this cramp?
Sacred Stone.
Sacred Stone. Please, ma'am, they're hitting the windows now.
And of course, rule 101 of journalism: know where you're going.
Oh yeah. Was that a problem, Phelim? You didn't know where you were going?
I didn't know where I was.
Phelim has a little bit of a sense of a little problem with sense of direction.
Well, we're in this middle of this field where there's a camp, but of course there was a couple of camps, and I directed the cops to the wrong camp. Right? And if you watch the video, there's kind of a lot of tension between myself and Magda in the video. So one of us wanted to adopt a more aggressive approach to and that was Magda.
Oh, that was Magda.
Yeah, a proactive, aggressive, and I was going, we're not provoking them, like we're
getting out of here.
They started shaking the thing, so Magda started blowing the horn really, and every time she blew the horn really, they started getting angrier and angrier.
But they were rocking the car.
Yeah, they're rocking the car.
Help us!
So I'm on the phone to the cops, and next thing we see the cops coming, meow, 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 lights, and they fly right past.
Oh, because you gave the wrong directions.
I gave the wrong directions.
We're trying to attract the attention of the police officer who's just driven past. Okay, stop it.
However, we found out later that a cop en route to the place I was sending them to heard the horn, stopped and looked, recognized the car, as a description of the car.
Police!
Yeah, I see a police car now.
But then the cops stopped, and the guys said to us, doesn't matter, they're not coming down here, they've never been in this field, they won't come into this field,
God.
right? So there was thousands of hostile people in this field, and the cops, how many of them were 20, 30, they initiated a SWAT team in a helicopter. Right. And so there's this standoff. We couldn't hear what we were on a microphone. Release the prisoners. Right, release them, or you'll be regretting this. And there was a standoff, and I think more and more cops are arriving. And I think somebody somewhere had a little bit of sense, and they pulled back the jeep, the truck.
And that 1 second, you were gone.
We were gone.
Yes. Yeah, we're moving towards the cops now.
So I just want to say, that was the reality of the Dakota Access Pipeline. So when you hear people talk about Extinction Rebellion and all those people, and they're just good-natured kids, the Dakota Access Pipeline had a core of criminality attached to it that was covered up by the media and not reported on. And, I want this video to be seen further.
I think in a similar way, just what you were saying even about the Dakota Access Pipeline protesters, right now as well, we've seen with the Extinction Rebellion people who basically brought London to a standstill the other day, and many other cities across the world. They're also, it's hilarious how, and it's funny that it's one of the things I talked to the young people in OSU about was, one of the reasons quite often people are protesting and they don't know things. The stuff they don't know, like, so they like electric cars, but they don't realize that electric cars are actually, in most parts of the country, in most parts of the United States, in most parts of the world, are powered by coal, because coal is still very much part of the mix in terms of making electricity. People don't know stuff. So, and we really know that for a fact, because with the North Dakota Access Pipeline, people who are against fossil fuels and all of this, they're using yoga mats, they're using tents. All those tents are
plastic,
are made from plastic, made from oil, and that. And there's actually a funny picture of some of the protesters in London who closed down one of the bridges there, and they have all these yoga mats laid out, and it's like, really, it's frightening actually that these people have power, that they're changing policies.
People take them seriously,
and people are taking them seriously, even though they don't seem to know what the yoga mat's made from. It's extraordinary. It's a bit like Patagonia, who were very involved in the anti-fracking movement, particularly in Colorado, and their sweatshirts, and those sweatshirts, those jackets, fleeces, those fleece jackets made from oil, and they don't seem to know that. They don't even seem to know what their own products are made from. Extraordinary, anyway. But we're going to be calling out that kind of hypocrisy everywhere we see it. By the way, Jane Fonda got arrested, actually, as part of the Extinction
They're
Rebellion.
fake arrests. They're not real arrests.
They're not real arrests. Well,
they just get released. It's not like they're going to be taken off to Rikers and ripped in the showers by Mr. Big, who's in league with the Waters.
That's one of Phelim's things that he repeats quite often. Just so you know, what is it again? Can we hear it again there, Phelim? What is it now? What is it? You hope won't happen?
Take me downtown, beat a confession out of me, ship me upstate to Rikers, and where I get raped in the showers by Mr. Big, who's in league with the Waters.
Stop it. Okay, it's a similar thing to we're not going to shut down the beach on the busiest day in the, what is it? We're not going to shut down the beach on Labor Day. Is that it, or something? On the busiest day of the year, or something like that.
You and your crazy New York ideas down here in our small town America.
In other news, I really love this story this week from the Wall Street Journal that Trump. I just love this. So Trump, along with all the other things that he's going to do, he's also going to make dishwashers great again. And I can just imagine some of you out there nodding when you hear this. So you may have noticed recently, in the last number of years, that your dishwasher isn't as good as it used to be. That you used to have a dishwasher. I remember it so well. You'd put dishes in the dishwasher and they'd come out and it'd be like a joy. A joy. They'd be literally, it was almost like an ad. They'd be sort of sparkling, right? Yes. That doesn't happen anymore.
And now you have to put it in for 3 hours and they're still not clean.
The average time of a dishwasher nowadays is it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I believe it is the average. But even with that amount of time, the dishes aren't really cleaned. And what's really interesting is, of course, that the reason that these things, so the whole manufacture of dishwashers has been forced to have been changed by environmentalists and by government policies, have made them change the efficiency of dishwashers to save energy, right? But here's what they're missing out on. They're missing out on the fact that you're washing dishes twice now, and you're using a huge amount of water that you weren't using before. This thing of washing dishes before they go into the dishwasher, by the way, I think that is lunacy. And back
it's un-American. It's un-American.
You know what? It's un-American. And back in the day, you didn't need to do that, but you do need to do that now.
My family didn't get on a boat to come to this country.
No, and your family didn't get on a boat to get here. But I love it.
To pre-wash our dishes before they go into the dishwasher.
So I actually think this could become something I don't know, Yvonne. We should nearly have T-shirts here. Make dishwashers that clean again. Is the headline out of the Wall Street Journal. And I just think it's like, we could have, let's get the dishwasher to work again, because honestly, it's wrong. The other story we want to talk about is we have more news about Hunter
Talking
Biden.
Of laundering.
Talking of what?
Laundering.
Oh, behave. Tell us about the latest news, Phelim, from the Hunter Biden saga.
Hunter. I don't know why the word laundering came into my brain there.
Go on ahead now.
Hunter. Well, not only is he an expert on Ukrainian oil and gas, but he's an expert on Chinese investment also.
Good man.
He's
multi-talented,
and and he's one of those late bloomers.
Oh, indeed.
I was just reading about the guy who invented KFC. He didn't invent KFC till he was in his 60s, So maybe Hunter's like that as well. So he led a dissolute life, and then Hunter became a Ukrainian oil and gas expert and a Chinese investment expert. Yeah, he has a Chinese investment fund, 1.5 billion, which he owns 10% of, and accompanied his father on a number of trips to China before the setting up of this Chinese investment fund.
But what's interesting is he's stepping down from the Chinese hedge fund. He's stepping down. He's withdrawn from all the other things, and basically he says he won't be involved in any foreign work when his father becomes president, which is not going to happen anyway. But it's really interesting. If you've done nothing wrong, you shouldn't be stepping down from anything.
Yes.
Like, you really shouldn't be stepping down from anything. And I would stick to my guns and keep my $50,000 a month if I wasn't. If I wasn't doing anything wrong. How dare you? What is it? Out of my cold, dead hands, you're going to take that $50,000 a month because I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. However, in this case, he's given up the money.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to ask yourself the question. Why is he doing
I take
that?
the Mark Stein view of this. Mark Stein's very good on this.
Very good.
He actually praises Hunter and Joe Biden for streamlining swamp corruption because
swamp corruption.
Yeah, and the bad old days, back in ancient history when Bill and Hillary were at it, Hillary was the Secretary of State, and someone she would do something nice for someone, and then miraculously that same person or country would donate $1 million, $10 million to the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation.
Yeah,
and then Chelsea Clinton. Actually, and it's not the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation, it's the Bill, Hillary and Chelsea Foundation. Chelsea Clinton would then get a speech in Africa talking for $500,000 talking about diarrhea
because she's an expert on diarrhea. Is that
diarrhea and solar panels. That was a two-step piece of swamp corruption where it had to go to the foundation, then the family. Now, the Bidens have just said, I'll do this for you if you just give my son $500,000 a year in Ukrainian money and $1.5 billion in Chinese money. So well done to the Bidens. They're definitely reducing bureaucracy in DC, and we should praise that for them. So.
Very good. So we've got a couple of crazy California stories that I think we need to quickly get to. So. Two things that are happening in California. One is that they're going to stop lunch shaming.
Lunch shaming.
Lunch shaming. Can you explain lunch shaming?
That is if you don't want to pay for your school meals. Sorry, if you're so poor and life is so tough that you can't pay for your school meals, then you will not be
shamed,
punished for that. So basically, it's free meals for everyone. So if I don't want to pay my car tax, should there be an end to car tax shaming?
You should be an end to paying for anything that you don't want to pay for.
Yes, because shaming is just not right.
Yeah, it's not right.
So I don't want to pay my electric bill, so there should be an end to that. So basically they're saying, anyone who can't pay won't be shamed and won't be punished for that. So basically they're allowing meals to be given for free, so no one's going to pay for any food now at school. So that's going to be another expense.
And then the other story we want to very quickly tell, because we've got a couple of other things we want to say before we finish the show today. But one of the things that we want to tell is this fabulous story about Elizabeth Warren and the pregnancy. So Elizabeth Warren claims that back in the day she lost a job because she got pregnant.
Yes.
It's turned out, because the fact checkers have been so rigorous and vigorous, it turns out it mightn't just be 100% true.
It's not even,
true at all.
The documents suggest that say that it's not true because in the minutes of the meeting, they expressed regret at losing her. However, maybe the minutes of the meeting, often minutes of the meeting can disguise other undercurrents. However, in an interview in 2007, she said she left voluntarily to go and to improve her career or something like that. So the best fact checker on this is Elizabeth Warren herself. When she's running for president, she needed a story, a victim story, a Me Too story. So she invented this. I had to leave. I was forced to leave because I was pregnant.
But it's very interesting the way this story has been handled on NPR. So NPR
and the New York Times,
and everywhere. And everywhere else. So how they're handling this is, people are being interviewed, supporters of Elizabeth Warren are being interviewed and asked, to explain this and, explain this discrepancy, as it were.
Well, no, they're not being asked to explain the discrepancy. They've been asked to say, well, what's going on here? And basically all these women are going, it happened to me in 1974, it happened to me in 1973, it happened to me in 1972. And it's like,
So the justification for her telling the lie, basically, a story that never happened, is that, well, it happened to other people, so in some ways it is kind of true.
Well, no, they ignore the interviews she gave and say, no, it probably is true because it happened to other people. Well, I was probably murdered, because a lot of murders in the 1970s.
There you go.
I mean, you cannot say something that's probably true because it happened to other people. You can say that. But the biggest problem that they're not addressing, they're just brushing over it. She contradicted it. She said it's not true.
Yeah, but what they're liking is they like the general narrative of women being discriminated against because they got pregnant. You know, they're going to just let this story that is not true ride because of the fact that maybe it happened to somebody else. Maybe that kind of thing happened. But it's an extraordinary kind of it's an extraordinary way of telling a story and allowing her to get away with this complete nonsense narrative. But hopefully these stories she'll get. They'll catch up with it.
She's a funny bird, our Elizabeth. You know, she doesn't seem to be a great politician. You know, I mean, that fake Indian story it's really in her brain, and she cannot get away from that.
I think that will. I think that definitely is going to hurt her in the future. It's a hard one to get away from.
Namaste, and you know, so I don't think she's a good. I mean, Joe Biden. I just hope they elect him. I hope they choose him. I mean, he's such an idiot, and he's in cognitive decline. You know, there's no doubt about it. He can't remember. I mean, I can't remember where I left my keys, but neither can he. But I'm not running for president. You know, so. It's going to be. I really hope they elect Joe Biden to be the Democratic
nomination, to win the nomination for the Democratic Party for the next election in 2020, which is going to be an incredible time for all of us. We'll be and we'll be following everything that goes along. I had another story, but I don't think we've got time for it. But I might just mention it anyway. I'm going to look at Magda and see whether or not I should mention it because I'm running out of time. One of the things that we also want to mention. One of the other thing that we also wanted to mention is that we're going to be in London for Brexit, and we'll be reporting from there, and we will have a podcast from London. But next week we're going to have a guest. We're not going to tell you who the guest is yet, but we're very excited about having a very, very interesting guest coming to join us next week. But there's a great story in the New York Times written by Monica Potts. So Monica Potts is a young lady who has moved back home to the Van Buren County in Arkansas to write a book about poor women in rural America. But while she's at that, she is writing stories for the New York Times and reporting on this place in America called rural America, which according to herself is it's where the Trump supporters are. It's where the people who voted for Trump are.
I've heard of such places.
And it's very interesting. And I as I read this story, I'd be inclined to think that it might be a nice idea for Phelim and I to go to Van Buren County, actually, in Arkansas. Because
so if there's anyone out there listening from Van Buren County.
Yeah, from Van Buren County, because I'm kind of interested in this. So all of this, she's had this, there's been a drama in the local area because the librarian was looking for an increase in salary, and basically it created a big drama. But it gives her an opportunity to segue into telling you more about the kind of people that live in these places, in these rural places, predominantly white. And it's funny, the way she writes about white, she says white like it's a bad thing, as opposed to it's just a thing. The people are white that live there, right? But no, she sort of spits it out like that it's a bad thing. But it's interesting here is how she describes these people. People like my neighbours hate that the government is spending money on those who don't look like them and don't live like them. And what I've learned since I came home is that they remain opposed even when they themselves stand to benefit.
By the way, it's a public library, right? So no one's standing at the door. There's no Jim Crow law saying if you're black, you're not allowed to go into the public library, or Hispanic. So I mean, why would they oppose spending money on a library? Everyone can go into the library.
But I really like some of these quotes, and I really, again, I think it's something that maybe Phelim and I need to do, is to go to some of these awful, deplorable places, rural places in America, where apparently the people are just terrible. And here's a line. Here's another quote from Miss Potts. I returned to Van Buren County at the end of 2017 after 20 years of living on the East Coast. Among the people that she'd like, you see, among her own. Most recently in the Washington area, because I'm writing a book about Clinton, Van Buren's county seat. My partner and I knew it would be a challenge. The county is very remote, very religious, and full of Trump voters, and we suspected we'd stand out because of our beliefs. But, we knew it would be a challenge. So it's challenging to live in a place where people are religious. Well, that's news to me. I would have thought, living among Christians, actually, would be pretty cool idea.
Try living in Mecca, sweetheart.
Oh yeah, try and live in because
go with your partner to Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Mecca or Indonesia actually now, where they've just introduced a law banning cohabitation where partners are not allowed. Saudi Arabia has just introduced a law that now finally you can actually share a room in Saudi Arabia with your partner if you're not married.
I'm just going to give you another quote from this article. The library fight was itself a fight over the future of rural America, what it meant to choose to live in a county like mine, what my neighbours were willing to do for one another, what they were willing to sacrifice for a sense of community here. The answer was, for the most part, not very much. The basic takeout from this is that these people are racist and they do not want to help anyone other than themselves. They have no interest beyond themselves. I think it might be a nice idea for Phelim and I to go and discover these deplorable people and find out exactly what they do from time to time or from week to week for other people. Because my experience, I'm going to go out on a limb there and say, particularly, I just looked up and I think there's something like 25 churches, by the way, in that county. And I'm curious about those people who attend those churches, and perhaps they might have a Christian bent for giving to others, and particularly people who are less well off than themselves. That's all we can have time for this week, unfortunately. But we have a very nice guest coming next week that we're really looking forward to. And please keep sending your comments in. Please keep getting in touch with us.
Keep subscribing on YouTube.
Give us a rating. And don't forget to watch the FBI Lovebirds. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, bye.